February event, which is a joint event between BCS South Yorkshire in Sheffield and the BCS Neurodiversity IT group as well, one of the specialist groups within the BCS as well. So tonight we've got a real treat for you all. So we have got an event where six neurodivergent professionals. So there's Jess Burden, Jonathan Ellwood, Matthew Bellringer, Maddy, Damo Quinn, and myself, Andy Shaw. And we're all talking about our experiences with developing careers in IT in neurodivergent professionals as well. Following our talks as well, we're going to have a panel discussion as well, having some questions as well about what challenges and barriers there are for neurodivergent professionals, and how can we make the IT industry more inclusive and more accessible and more fun for everybody as well, not just all of us. So firstly, we have a prize to give out. So we at the South Yorkshire BCS branch, so Charles is vice chair. I used to be the chair of the branch, and now I'm the diversity inclusion officer. We also have Amini as well, and Martin, who's also online as well. But tonight, this person has won the Professional Development Award on the Computer Networks course in Sheffield University. And they're here tonight, so I'd like to say, Jacob, come on down to the floor, please. Jacob. It's good that I'm really pleased to, on behalf of the South Yorkshire BCS branch, I'm really pleased to award this to you. Very well done. And how have you found studying at university?
I have loved it, to be honest. Yeah, as a mature student, it's a great privilege to be able to have the opportunity to come back to university and have the opportunity to change your life, basically.
Definitely. And what are your plans for the future, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm in the final year now. Cool. And then once I finish the final year, I've got a job lined up straight away.
Absolutely fantastic. Very, very well done. Well deserved. So well done, my friend. Hope you enjoyed the event, and you're welcome to any of our events as well. And anything which you'd like to see in future BCS events, please give one of us a shout. Please give one of us a shout. So yeah, awesome. So yeah. So without further ado, we're going to go for a list of have the speakers first of all as well, delivering their talks as well. So first of all, we have the fantastic Jess, who is a professional in cybersecurity and runs the Worcester DEFCON event, and is part of one of our sibling branches, BCS Hereford and Worcestershire as well, and has and works with, is it ISAME?
IASME.
IASME. That sounds cooler than ISAME. IASME. So, without further ado, I'd like to hand over the floor to Jess.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Can everyone hear me okay? I guess so.
Yep. Yes, we can do, yeah.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am Jess Burden, as Andrew said. Thank you for the introduction. I'm really sorry that I could not be there in person today, but thanks so much for having me on the web. I work as a cybersecurity engineer in IASME Consortium's internal security team. I was diagnosed with autism when I crashed out of school at the age of 14. And during my recovery, I joined an autistic self-help group and was then onboarded onto cybersecurity training for unemployed neurodiverse people. This course is still being run by UK Cybersecurity Forum, and it is a great initiative. And that is actually how me and Jonathan have met, who is the next speaker after this. And it resulted in our careers. So I'm really happy that I was part of that. I'm also lucky to have found my passion in life. I really enjoy my job and I'm good at it. In my free time, I run a technology networking group called Worcester DEFCON, which has led me to run hackathons for local university students, which is actually in partnership with BCS, Worcestershire, and Herefordshire. So that's really great. We're all connected here, I guess. And I was unsupported in my school environment, which is why I left school early, but I am now supported and understood in my work. And I am, that's why I'm doing well. I don't have to exhaust myself being someone I'm not. The reason I had a breakdown is not because I have autism, but because I had to suppress it and I had to translate people so I'd understand them and they'd understand me. And that takes a lot of energy. And I couldn't do all that and also my schoolwork. I believe neurodiverse people that are working unsupported are doing so at a great cost. All their energy is being put into acting a certain way to suppress neurodiverse behavior, like putting on a performance. If we didn't have to put on a performance every time we clocked in, we would be able to put our energy into places that matter, like our work. And that's where I found, joining the workforce and being supported has really made a big change in how well I'm doing. So I'm looking forward to exploring that and many other discussions in our panel session. Thanks again for having me.
A fantastic talk, Jess, as well, and I'm really impressed with what you're saying as well. And I think as well, you're also a great role model to others as well. So, and I'd be interested to learn more about what you do as well, which I'll speak to you after the event as well. So, everybody, let's give Jess another hand, please, because she's been amazing.
Thanks.
So next is Jonathan as well, who is also a professional in cybersecurity as well. So, Jonathan, the floor is yours, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me, everybody.
You're welcome.
Lovely to come and speak to you. So yeah, I've had a bit of a roller coaster into my journey to get into cybersecurity. So my background is actually aerospace engineering, so that's kind of where I spent most of my life. But I went through kind of an epiphany. I'm really into motorsport, and I really like Guy Martin, and so I was reading Guy Martin's autobiography, and in his autobiography, he talks about Asperger's, and that kind of resonated with me, and it made me understand. I maybe realised actually I've got kind of few common traits there, and then so following that, long story short, I then I got a diagnosis for autism, and I had a big crash. Like Jess, and I had a really rubbish time at school, and so I had a really big crash, and somebody who was working with me from the NHS sort of said, "Oh, there's this training for cybersecurity that's going on in Worcestershire. We think you might be really good at it. It's for people who are neurodivergent. Why don't you give it a go?" So I did, and that's where I met Jess, and learned some cybersecurity. And from there on, it was kind of, I found my tribe, I would say. I found people like me, and I was able to get into a workplace at IASME. So IASME is a strategic delivery partner for the National Cybersecurity Centre. So we deliver a lot of national schemes. So and it's a very, very supportive environment. So my career kind of took off with working at IASME. Where there's we have quite a lot of neurodivergent people there because of our recruitment practices. Sort of nearly half the staff are neurodivergent. So it's been a great place to learn and meet people like Jess, and meet people like me, which has been kind of the success, kind of a success story really of the organisation, I'd say. Is Andrew gone?
Cool. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. But no, very, very well done, Jonathan, as well. So everybody, I'd like you to give a hand for Jonathan. So So next we have Matthew Bellringer, who is the co-founder and chair of the BCS Neurodiversity Specialist Group from British Computer Society. So I approached Matthew back in about late November, December time, and I thought, with the idea of running an event to help promote neurodiversity in the workplace, also as well, working together as two branches would be better than just one branch as well, and that way as well, we sort of help raise the profile of what we do as well. So Matthew, I'd like to hand over the floor to you, please.
So yeah, hello everyone, and really good to see you all. I can see that my video hasn't appeared yet on the screen. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. I'll carry on talking anyway and let someone sort that out in the background. So yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, Andy, and thank you for inviting me along. It's really great to see other groups within BCS exploring neurodiversity, and always want to support that as much as we possibly can. I personally, my own relationship to this is I had a very early diagnosis of dyslexia when I basically got thrown out of infant school. And later on, much later on, a few years ago, I ended up with an ADHD diagnosis and then an autism diagnosis. And taken together, they largely explain everything. I now work for myself and have done for 6 or 7 years, which actually suits me very well. I can create an environment that absolutely suits me, play to my strengths, work in the ways that really work for me. I previously worked in higher education, which was reasonably flexible, but with which I burnt out. So I very much kind of resonated with what both Jonathan and Jess shared about their own experiences. So yeah, I'm also, I think one of the interesting things is I also dropped out of university the first time around. I studied with the Open University later on. So I studied psychology, which is why I'm now a neurodiversity and innovation specialist. And I work kind of across the technology and human side of things. And that ability to not fit into categories has been really, really helpful for me. It's really important for a lot of neurodivergent people and a lot of the people that I work with. So yeah, I think it's absolutely great to be here, and I'm really keen to see where we go with this and really keen to support the branch. So yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
Our pleasure, Matthew, as well, and thank you for delivering your talk as well, and thank you for helping to help make this event possible as well, and organising this event with me as well behind the scenes. So it's really great to have you on board, my friend, as well. So now we're going to the rest of our speakers are all here in Sheffield as well. So firstly, I'd like to introduce you to Maddy Kilby-McMurray, who, like myself, is part of the specialist interest group in software testing. After the event, we're going to do a call for speakers as well for our upcoming conference on the 19th of June 2025, both online and in London. Last year, myself and Maddy spoke at this conference. Maddy did a really, really good talk, and since the talk, you've also joined SIGS as well as the Diversity Inclusion Officer as well. So working with you at SIGS is absolutely fantastic, and you're a non-functional tester at the moment. So Maddy, the floor is all yours in person.
Thanks so much. So hi everyone. Thanks so much for coming out tonight. It's great to see so many people in person. I don't often get to make it to in-person events, so this is really great. So as Andy mentioned, my name is Maddy. My pronouns are they, them. I am a non-functional and performance tester with Rail Delivery Group at the moment. Much like everyone else that's already spoken, I had a bit of a wiggly journey into my career, shall we say. You'll find that burnout is an overall theme here. So I was late diagnosed. So I got diagnosed in 2022 with ADHD after a lifetime of trying to work things out. When I finished school, I was meant to go to university. I had placement at university, but I was so burnt out with the school system that I could not face going back to school. So originally I took a gap year. That gap year turned into 10 years of uni. Like Matthew, I'm also an open university student. So I'm currently studying a computing degree in software design, and I should be graduating at the end of this year, as long as I finish my final project. So let's see how that goes. Before retraining into tech, I was working in operations and finance for about 8 years. I kind of just stumbled through. So I sort of fell into different roles and had no idea what I wanted to do. I was so burnt out with everything. And then, unfortunately, in 2016, I got very ill with a chronic illness. Took me out of work completely. Had to take a couple of years to recover. To be honest, I'm pretty grateful for it, because in that time, I was able to sit back and go, what do I actually want to do? Because I was going through a repeated cycle of I'd get into a job, be really, really good at it for about 6 months, get bored of it for about 12 months, and then just literally not do any work if I lasted any longer than that. Turns out it was because of the raging ADHD that I had no idea about. So I got diagnosed when I started studying. Luckily, I was diagnosed and supported before coming back into work. And it's like chalk and cheese, comparing my previous working life with my working life once I was diagnosed, because I was able to make adjustments for myself. I personally am medicated for my ADHD as well, so it was a big thing. Also, since retraining into tech, I've become a neurodiversity advocate. So basically, at any event that you have me, I will present and I will talk about how to make accommodations at work and how to make workplaces, especially tech, more accessible, because it is a career that is more accessible to people like me, for example, that have health conditions, for neurodivergent people as well. It's a lot more flexible, but there are a lot of adjustments that still need to be made, a lot of mental shifts that need to be made. But yeah, coming to the end of it, I just come out of a pseudo graduate program with a training company. So I worked with them for 2.5 years. They trained me for the first 2 months, and then I was on placement after that. I'm a big advocate. Now, I realise the irony of coming to a university and saying this, but I'm a big advocate of non-traditional routes into tech as well, because a big part of that is if you rely solely on university degrees, and I'm not dissing university degrees, but it is restrictive and it does reduce access for a lot of neurodivergent people. If you only need a university degree, you're not recognising other ways of learning, other ways of building up your skills, you're basically excluding a lot of neurodivergent people, a lot of people with health problems, etc., etc. But yeah, I'm very lucky. The place that I work now is super supportive. Funnily enough, my manager also has ADHD, so we work together very well and understand each other. And being supported at work makes such a massive difference. I love my job so much. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic stuff, Maddy, and it's great to see you in person as well. So thank you for coming tonight. So our next speaker is Damo Quinn as well, who years ago, myself and Damo went to the same school in Nottinghamshire, which although we were in sort of different sort of year groups as well, I knew of you, and yeah, and I knew of you as well. So Damo has written a really good book about finding a voice, where you talk about your experiences with developmental language disorder as well. The book you can buy online, and it's a really good book. I've read it, and I think it is very insightful and very interesting. And I recommend, if you want to learn more about developmental language disorder, read the book Finding Voice as well. So Damo is also wanting to be a cybersecurity professional as well, and looking into ethical hacking as well. So, and you've also done a lot of articles on LinkedIn as well about developmental language disorder as well, which I can send some of the links as well after this event as well for anyone as well who's interested. So Damo, the floor is yours, friend.
I don't need to say anything, he said it all.
Oh, okay, well.
I should never send him my talk and because he can read it out. But I did everything he said.
Okay.
I am doing everything he says. Also, I am actually studying for CompTIA Security Plus at the moment. And if you know it, good. If you don't know it, then where have you been? It's a difficult subject to get your head around if you got neurodiversity of any description, even DLD. And but I'm hoping to pass that in end of March. I'm slowly going through the questions. I'm hoping everything is right when I get to the end, which most of them is. Then after that, like Andy said, I'm looking at ethical hacking. I'm looking at bug bounty and pen testing and web hacking, web application hacking, and all. Basically go whole way through the hacking side. More money is much happier gamer. I love money. And so far, being in the jobs I've had, like in security, not physical security, lifeguarding, and I'm going to be a coach driver, but I'm dealing with the DVLA. Gosh, yeah, not in Denmark. They are slow. They are as slow as a snail. Can't when it's hot. And as Andy also mentioned, I've got Finding a Voice out, and with the money I earn, I'm going to be promoting it a lot more than I have been, because it all comes down to money. But I have had it reviewed by a company which gave it top marks reviews, and I've got love reading also looking at it, so hopefully they will give it a good review. But yeah, I've got he told you everything. all of this to say, and was like, yeah, I'm going to say I need to change one bit, which is a coach driving. At least when I told you already.
Sorry.
Yeah, I went to school and I went. I've got DLD, which has been through loads of name changes, and I've also got a YouTube channel, which you forgot.
Sorry.
You didn't get that far.
No.
And hopefully with that YouTube channel, I haven't done anything to it for ages, but I'm needing to upgrade my YouTube equipment, get better cameras, like Da Vinci camera, cinema camera, then I can do a documentary about DLD, interview him and interview everyone else and doctors and politicians, and have the doctors and politicians beating me up because I mentioned DLD and they don't understand it. Which they don't, unfortunately. No one understands neurodiversity. And I'm also vice president of a national children's charity that helps people with DLD, and I'm one of the hosts for Christmas Carol concert. So if you're interested in Christmas carols, come down to London in December. Tickets go out in September, and it's at St Andrew's Holborn, St Andrew's Church, Holborn. Sorry, it's a bit of a plug there, but I need to do it. It's close to my heart. But yeah, I think he's told you everything. I can't. Yeah, there you go.
No problem. Great stuff, Damo. So, and thank you as well for coming tonight as well. It's good to see you in person again as well. So, my talk is going to be next. So, last but by no means least, I'm just going to just get the slides up and just share my screen just while I do my talk, because I did a little presentation together over weekend. So I'm going to talk about now my experience as a neurodiverse professional. So can everyone see my screen?
Also coming up here.
So to those of you online, can you also see my screen? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. I'm a tester and I make simple mistakes like that. Silly me, I'll do 10 push-ups at the end of the lesson. And end of the event. So can everyone see my screen now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about my experiences as a neurodiverse professional. So I'm Andy Shaw. I'm a neurodivergent professional. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Officer of the South Yorkshire BCS branch, and I'm also the editor of a well-known online international really cool magazine, testing magazine called The Tester. It's got readership in the UK. It's also got readership in Argentina, India, and Australia as well. Well, the Australia bit's mainly with family, but they'll read it. But I also outside of work and outside of BCS and testing, I'm also an assistant martial arts instructor as well. So between BCS and between martial arts, I like to balance life a bit. So that's me. So I'm Andy Shaw. Myself and Damo went to the same school as well in Nottingham years and years ago. So I'm actually doing a talk with them on Monday, actually, as part of their Successful Futures event which they're running. So it'd be good to see the school again. It'd be good to see them. So I'm Andy Shaw. I've got a semantic pragmatic language disorder, which is a little like dyslexia, but it's interpreting what's being said or understanding what's being written as well. So I was diagnosed at a very early age because I couldn't actually speak until I was about 4 years old. And I went to an assessment centre years ago as well to help diagnose my condition. My mother had read the book Elizabeth Browning. I can't see what you're saying, which unfortunately is no longer in print, but was a good book which explained about what I had as well. And for a few years I went to a special needs unit as well. And then when at the age of 7, wearing a green tie and smart uniform, I went to Dawn House in Nottingham until I was 16 as well. And after leaving university, I initially wanted to work with animals, but I desisted to the nearest PCA place, and I quickly began to not enjoy it. And I just got to a point where I thought, what am I doing here? I don't really enjoy it. So I enrolled in a course at college to start off with. So a college in Nottingham, where at Dawn House at the time, I wasn't able to do a lot of the GCSEs because there wasn't capacity to do it. Now at the school they do all the GCSEs, I believe, and there's a 16 to 19 unit as well at the school, Key Stage 5, which focuses on a number of things. So I went to college after leaving Dawn House. I enrolled for a course after speaking with the lecturers beforehand, about a year or so beforehand, and visiting them regularly to see if I could go on the course, and they said yes, they would do. I enrolled at the registration desk. The lecturer said, your GCSEs are not up to par. You need 4 GCSEs at grade D or a grade C or E. I only had 3. So they're about to turn me away until the parents had to sort of fight to get me onto a place at college as well. So after about a couple of hours, they eventually decided to do me a trial run of a course to see if I'd cope. Fortunately, I turned out to be one of the best students on the course as well, because I picked everything up. I had support from key skill set stage as well, with things like writing assignments, with things like understanding what was needed for assignments, as well as time where I could plan the work which I needed to do as well. Overshot that a bit. So after finishing some courses at college, I went to Sheffield Hallam University and did a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Information Systems. At first, I struggled with the university because the place was so huge. It was so huge. I thought, what the hell have I got myself into? I was homesick a lot. I struggled with the first few months of sort of settling in, fitting in, everybody living away from home and staying with Paul's as well. I had a lecturer though who was really good, who I told him some of my concerns which I had as well. I thought initially he was going to fob me off, but he actually sort of sat me down and we had a half-an-hour discussion about the areas I was struggling, and he sort of gave some advice and was supportive and helped us in assessment of need, helped me get an assessment of need at Sheffield Hallam University. So the assessment of need was where they took things like my condition into account as well, and what sort of support they could give you as well. So here, fortunately, there was the access and guidance unit as well, where I was given a computer for load from the university. I was also given access to somebody within the access and guidance unit as well, so I could discuss my assignments with as well, which was really good. I also had some support. Some of the lecturers were really supportive at Sheffield Hallam as well. Some of them have retired now, but some I still believe are still here as well. And I graduated in 2003 with the upper second class in Bachelor's of Business Information Systems. I worked as well during the degree. I actually did an industrial placement at a software house in Islington, London. Although I didn't know about my speech language difficulty, semantic pragmatic language disorder, they were accommodating, and I had some very supportive colleagues as well who showed me how it worked, allowed me to work and ask questions when I needed to as well, and they gave coaching and guidance to how I could develop as well. I also liked as well that I had a structure in place as well, where they assigned work to you, they explained what they needed to do, they got you to review things like testing strategies, software development strategies with them as well. And there was 3 of us students who did the industrial placement year there. The other 2 students as well were a bit more advanced than me because I had experience of software engineering and coding, which I didn't have as much as. However, they were also supportive as well. And with that as well, I managed to sort of do really well there as well. And it was a good place where I look back to this day and think, yeah, I worked there. It was a good place. It was structured and it was in a supportive, nurturing environment. And the management and the managers were fair and understanding. After graduating, it took me a while to get a graduate job because after university, there was a pressure of people saying you need to get a graduate job. And it took me 2 years from finishing university to get a graduate job. I eventually found a graduate job at EDS, founded by Ross Perot, who went for presidency of the United States in 1992. He didn't get the job. Mr. Clinton did. But I started with EDS on a graduate scheme. So the graduate scheme, it wasn't the best time of my life because although they knew about my condition, I had some managers who just kind of, and I'm not in the process of bad-mouthing people, that's not me at all, but I wanted to do programming, I wanted to do coding. I was put on roles like support, which I absolutely quickly began to hate, and other roles as well, which I wanted to do. I wasn't given a chance to do some of the work which I actually wanted to do. So I did some roles though, which in the graduate scheme, which I did enjoy, like testing, and had a really, really supportive and encouraging manager. Other places in the business, I was just basically pigeonholed into a role. And for one of these roles, I was asked to do minutes for the first month, just minutes. No coding, no sort of reviewing of software stuff, no learning about software, just writing minutes, which was a bit of a bummer because I struggled with writing minutes and the manager telling me they're rubbish each time. But I also worked on different areas as well, and I wanted to sort of show that I could do some work as well. So I used to sort of push myself, deliberately learn skills outside of work as well to help with the roles as well. I thought with that as well, and I was doing a number of roles, which I didn't mind doing, like project support, which I didn't mind doing, but my heart just really wasn't in it. I couldn't see myself immersing in it or being sort of me. So, although really hard at EGS and I had some really good friends and some good managers there, unfortunately in 2013, I was made redundant towards the end of the year. Boom! It was a difficult time and it was a struggle. However, I went to a few networking events and learned more about software testing. I started playing around with software web development websites and actually discovered this is something I want to do. So I got the ICQB in software testing, which helped me to get a better understanding of what testing is, a sort of basic understanding. I went to testing networking events run by the Ministry of Testing, the Leeds and Sheffield Tester Gatherings, also as well some other networking groups with testing as well, and are connected with a lot of testers on LinkedIn, a recruitment consultant who actually got me more insights into what a testing role was. So in 2014, 10 years, 2014, I started the first testing role up in Leeds as well for a geological company. There are 6 testers of us. Everybody else had master's degrees or even PhDs in geophysics and geology. I didn't have a master's or a PhD, but I added value to the team by looking at testing from a different angle as well. So we were sort of exchanging sort of skills. So I was asking about a lot of the geological terms like seismic horizons and juxtapositions, and learning about that. And we worked really well as a team. I have worked in a number of places. Some of the places I've worked in a few toxic companies, totally blooming awful ones, and I experienced some issues with them as well, which because they weren't supportive towards me and my needs. I've also worked with really good companies as well, who've been encouraging, who've been supportive, who've gotten on with really well. And for me, it's the right environment as well, an environment that's nurturing and supporting, but an understanding of what I have as well. So my future goals are gaining more experience of different areas of testing, like application programmable interface testing, automation, and I'm also learning about cybersecurity as well, because I've had a lot of friends in the industry and I'm doing talks on mental health and learning more as well, so that I can help them. So I've faced a number of challenges as well whilst developing a career in tech. So does everybody know this image at all? Some places treat sort of like every role sort of like a one size fits all, which shouldn't really be the case. And mine was no different. So in some roles, I've been pigeonholed. In some roles as well, not being encouraged to develop myself, or being told, no, you can't learn these skills. You only have to learn these. You only have to learn this specific set of skills. You can't learn about databases to help with the testing. You can't learn about automation because you're easily distracted. You can't learn about development because we want you in support. And that really sort of was quite demotivating. I've worked with, unfortunately, a few managers who've been very, very ignorant about the condition and who just wouldn't listen and just accused me of daydreaming and just not working fast enough. And like a number of neurodivergent professionals, I've actually been bullied in a few roles as well. One of which I was asked to compare myself against other people who'd joined a company after myself, being told that I was daydreaming. It caused me to lose sleep at night time as well. I even told one of the managers about it. He said, it's not anxiety, you're just daydreaming. So I have worked with some really good managers, and some of them I've developed some really, really good friendships with as well. One of them actually, when I was testing web development software, after a while they actually sort of let me test it independently as well, because he said, you're good at this area, you're good at this area, and I can sort of trust you with this. And he was, and they were very, very supportive, and we got on really well. But I've done a number of things since developing a career as testing. So I do a lot of public speaking as well in different areas like testing, career development, neurodiversity, and mental health. I've also built up knowledge of the different industries which I work in as well, and as well as different areas of testing, including cross-browser testing, database testing, mobile testing. I'm also part of the community as well, so I've been involved with different communities, and then I've been an ally for different groups. So I've currently been helping the BCS community, the British Computer Society community. I also help of communities like Cyber Women Group CIC, who I did a talk with Lisa Ventura back in November time, which was really, really good. And I'm doing an event for one of their branches at some point this year as well. And outside of work, I've got black belts and 2 martial arts as well. So just a few of the things. So that's me. So yeah. So sorry for taking up a bit. Sorry for speaking a little longer than what I usually do. So how are we all anyway?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. That was really
Awesome.
interesting.
Thank you. So now we're onto a panel discussion. So the second part of the event tonight as well. So we have 2 initial questions first of all, which we're going to discuss as well within the panel and with everybody as well. So we've got two questions. So then afterwards it will be sort of questions as well to all of us as well. So the first question is, what barriers do you think are currently there for neurodivergent professionals who want to develop a career in tech? And then the second question is, how can we make the tech industry more accessible, more inclusive, more enjoyable, and more fun for everybody as well? So, without further ado, I'd like to discuss the first point as well. So, what barriers do you think we're all facing as neurodivergent professionals?
Do you want to go first, Jonathan, or someone else?
No, go for it, Jess.
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll chime in after you. Get first choice what to say.
oh, cool. Well, I was gonna say, so I do feel like the interview process is a very traditional, old-fashioned way to recruit people, and I feel like people who are, companies that are recruiting are not thinking about the actual job they're recruiting for when they submit a job application. They're like, we're looking for this, and for example, to do a cybersecurity job, most of them don't require you to be interviewed every day as part of that job. So why would you be interviewed for that job when you could probably do, like, I don't know, something better to judge your capability for that job, like something related to that job that you do every day? I think there's just better ways to do that, personally. Anything you want to add, Jonathan or Matthew?
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Jess. I mean, it's kind of the interviews are kind of like social tests, and if part of that job you're applying for doesn't require that social interaction because it's a technical job, why are you giving me this social test in the first place? It's kind of not right, is it? But also, I think. But sometimes, you do need to talk to somebody. You do need to have that interview process. But that doesn't mean to say there shouldn't be appropriate reasonable adjustments through that.
Exactly.
Should there really? So, I know at IASME we'll do things like providing the interview questions in advance if you want to, or being told what the environment's going to be like, or meet the people who are going to be, performing any interview processes and things like that. I think, whatever it takes to level the playing field for a neurodivergent person is really, really important. And those things are going to vary from person to person, aren't they? So you can only work out that stuff if you engage with that individual and find out what they need in order to make things fair and equal for that person. That's what I think.
Yeah, very well put.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with all of that. I think one of the big things we see, I'm seeing in recruitment, is getting around this idea of culture fit and the kind of idea of what your ideal candidate looks like and sounds like and behaves like. Instead actually focusing on really the capabilities in the job is much more effective. But we still have these stereotypes about the right kind of person and the right kind of person that's going to fit. And that's a really big barrier to neurodivergent people getting into the organization. And I think even that fixity can spread through as well, because one of the other big issues I see is actually progress, even once you're in the organization. And we have found a lot of neurodivergent people struggle to progress through and get, to actually really find a role that actually where they're fully using all their skills and don't get the developmental opportunities that other people get as well. And I think a lot of that is related to this kind of fixity of like, these are all the skills you have to do the job, and you have to do it this way. And for many of us who are neurodivergent, actually our real strength is that we can do things a different way. Even we might be delivering the same outcome, but we'll do it a different route, and that'll have all sorts of really, really good benefits. But if the organization is too hung up on, exactly how you do that, and it must look like this, then that'll never happen.
And another thing I would say is, you get some job descriptions saying that this job is for cybersecurity and it's remote work only. And then a couple of years later, all of the managers at that job after you got their job, want their employees to come back into work. I can name drop one, Amazon. Jeff Bezos has told his managers at Amazon to get all of the remote workers back into the office, because remote working does nothing to the skill of the job. You are much better working in the office than at home. And yet, if you're doing cyber security like hacking, you have to be remote, because if you're doing ethical pen testing, and you are hitting a company to find the flaws. But if they know your work, they can say you are not. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So one of the big barriers that I found is a lot of organisations will set up all of these accessible policies, will design all these accessible policies, but then will completely rely on the candidate or the employee to disclose their own neurodivergencies. And as someone who has been sort of in working with pre-diagnosis and post-diagnosis, that is a scary thing. That is a scary thing, and it's a very vulnerable position to be in, to say to someone, especially in the interview process, that, oh, actually, I need this extra help. Because obviously, if you then don't get the job, what's going through your mind? Are you thinking that, is it because I asked for those adjustments, etc.? So one of the barriers that I find when I try and advocate for companies to think about is building a package of accessibility for interviews, and once you start the role, that doesn't rely on people having to disclose. So having the sort of opt-out option with accessibility. So when you're designing interviews, for example, or designing the job description, don't design it thinking that you then need to adjust it if you have a neurodivergent person apply. Because you can't assume if someone's neurodivergent or not. It's up to them whether they want to tell you, and you know what, they don't have to. Nobody has to. But designing the accessible policies makes it accessible for everyone, because neurodivergent people are applying anyway. It's just the barriers are higher if it's not designed that way. So yeah.
On your part of designing, I know companies who don't even mention it, and have you got neurodivergence, they will leave it out of their application form. And if they know that they are interviewing someone with a neurodivergence, a few days later that person will get a not suitable for our company. They will literally get rid of you because you got neurodivergence.
Exactly. Technically, it's illegal, but who can prove it, right? If you're in a job interview process, it's very difficult to prove that it is discrimination, which is why organisations should be offering it to everyone. And if you're offering it to everyone and making it more accessible to everyone, then that's not singling people out. That's not relying on the person putting their necks on the line and just hoping that your company is as accessible as you say that it is.
It's also these days, diagnosis processes take so long. Even the waiting times are ridiculous. So you can't have a system which is dependent on having a bit of paper that says I'm this. If somebody says they need something, you just give it. Which is what we do at ASME. If somebody needs some help, you just give it. Why should you need a piece of paper to get the help that you need. I was just in the background looking something up because this week GCHQ put a post out from Anne Butler, the director of GCHQ, and she said neurodiversity and dyslexic thinking are highly valued at GCHQ. In fact, they are mission critical. Mission critical. So I think that's hopefully sets a trend of thinking, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's such an important point how valuable neurodiversity is to an organization, to any organization. And, you know, it particularly shows up in roles and areas where having an unconventional perspective is a particular advantage. So things like cybersecurity and testing are really good examples of where having that different perspective is really, really valuable. But it's everywhere, but organizations that aren't flexible enough to be able to cope with a diversity of perspectives, and where people can't do that, where there isn't something that management can do and leadership can do, are actually really, really a huge barrier for neurodivergent people to be able to contribute fully. And I think many of us, we might have found ourselves in that kind of organization at one point or another in our careers. And it can be really bad. And unfortunately, a lot of us, myself included, experience harassment and bullying at some point in their careers. Many more neurodivergent people do than the general population. And it has an effect, you know, and it's a really systemic thing, but it prevents that innovation and change and being able to do things differently. It's really, really a big, not only is it a barrier to us as individuals and can be really personally harmful, actually, but it's a real loss to the organizations as well.
Absolutely, and just to build on that as well, what a lot of organizations don't realize is that if they're not, they might think that they need to cater to new neurodivergent people joining the company, but you can almost guarantee that if you are managing a team, there is someone who is neurodivergent in the team. Going back to the fact that it's a real privilege to get a diagnosis now. You know, you've also got people that just have that, you know, wouldn't look into being neurodivergent, and it's building that accessibility benefits everyone. It benefits the organization because they get the benefits of the neurodivergent styles of thinking. I mean, we get pretty creative. We've had to live an entire life trying to, you know, fit a square peg in a round hole, right? So you get pretty creative with some of the things that you come up with to get around a very neurotypical way of living. And organizations miss out on that. But if there's an attitude of, oh, we don't have to worry about it because we haven't got someone neurodivergent in the team, it's just misguided, because you can almost guarantee they have got someone that's probably just not open about it for their own reasons, which are perfectly valid.
Or they just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I feel especially with the culture, it's really, so I mean, it's hard to say specific things that will help every autistic person, every neurodiverse person, because everyone is so different. But I feel genuinely the culture in a company to allow someone to say what makes it easier for them is really critical. So, and that's the same with, you know, recruitment. The ability to say, oh, actually, is it possible to do this interview in a different situation? Or, you know, I feel like that is the key thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, which you guys were saying, what I feel is that if a company employs someone who's neurodivergent, they can say, oh, we are a neurodivergent friendly company, and it's just a tick off their guide list from the government, and they don't want to employ them, and the workplace will show them why they don't want to employ them, because of the toxicity and the bullying you get in workplaces, but it's the company saying, oh, it's just a tick off the guidelines, like us given this office wheelchair-friendly ramp. And if they could literally take the ramp away or take the neurodivergence away, they would be a lot more happier than anyone else in this world. They are more likely agreeing with Donald Trump at the moment. Politics.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry.
yeah, it's all right, it's all right. I mean, with my experience, some interviews, it's caused me some sort of anxiety and a bit anxious. And although other interviews as well have not been too bad, but some of the issues I've had have been sort of trying to get noticed. But most of it is just sort of getting a job offer, and then after getting a job, just finding places which have made reasonable adjustments. And some places which I've worked with, to be fair, one company which I did work at, one company I have worked at, they looked at my condition before I started as well. And I'll explain it as well. So at least I've got that. At least I've told them anyway. I mean, I know that not everybody chooses to disclose it, and I completely understand as well. I just do it so that at least I make them aware, and I'm happy to work with them, but they've got to meet me halfway as well. So some of the places is just being some of it is being making sure that you're provided to sort of like fair access and sort of training as well, and personal development as well, where sometimes in places where I have worked at, I've been sort of sidelined for just mundane menial work, which has become quite stagnant because I don't know what they're thinking, but they'll say to me things like, oh, project management's not really your thing, just find a job, just do that. And it's from people who just don't really know. And I think a lot of it seems to come down with ignorance or treating everything as a one-size-fits-all. I mean, I've actually worked at a place where they said that they wanted to do everything we could to support me, but they wouldn't do. And a lot of the accessibility practice were quite bad as well. An example being that they actually used a lift to store stuff in it and used it as a storage, not rather than sort of keeping it clear for anybody with mobility difficulties who they need to use lift to go up the floors. But I've worked at some places do actually sort of encourage the creativity as well, and encourage myself and other neurodivergent professionals as well to be creative as well. And that way, you'll see that they'll get a competitive edge, as well as including people from all different backgrounds as well. And that's one reason why I got to BCS in the first place, that making sure that people are actually supported and understood, and that they're being listened to, and that they're given a fair chance to develop their skills and develop the equal sort of opportunities. Yeah. So shall we go on to the next question now? And the next question is, how can we make the tech industry more accessible, more inclusive, more enjoyable, and more awesome for everybody, more fun? So, Jess, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Awesome.
That's a great question. So I have said that everyone is different, and that's important to keep in mind. But I would like to say that, so the culture, I would say, is the main thing. And to promote culture changes, it really has to come from the top, I believe. So the managers, if they talk openly about their own issues, it doesn't have to be neurodiverse issues or, whatever, but just their own issues, make it a safe space, if you will. And talk about like what helps them, so that it kind of helps other people open up and talk about their own issues. I think that's really important to create that cultural change. If people aren't able to voice what would help them. So.
Awesome.
Cool. Jonathan?
Yeah. The environment has to have that. It's okay to not be okay, and to be able to speak up and not be chastised or not feel that you can't say anything. And yeah, like Jess says, that culture has to come from the top. And also you need, I don't know, you kind of need allies as well, don't you? Really, you, how do I say it? So people who look like you. You need to be able to see. If you can't see it, you can't be it, can you? You need to see people who look like you and who are happy and comfortable in the environment. And we need more and more of that. Kind of, I think, really. So we've always, I asked me, we've always had sort of a wellbeing team. We've always had mental health first aiders, so that you have somewhere to go. If you're having a really bad day, you've got somebody to talk to. And sometimes having somebody in the wellbeing team who maybe can start to see a trend of people who are talking about the environment can then relay that back to the senior leadership and say, well, actually, we've got a bit of an issue here. We need to do something about that. So that's what I think.
Well said, my friend. Matthew?
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. But there's something for me in this that's really about the idea of neurodiversity as opposed to the idea of neurodivergence. And it's really important. Like, we are all, like, neurodiversity is a thing that just applies to humans as a species. We are all neurodiverse. We all have different neurology. Our brains all work in different ways. Some of us are outliers, and some of us don't think and feel and experience in the ways that our broader culture expects. That's what makes us neurodivergent. But everyone is neurodiverse. And even people that don't fit these categories experience quite a lot of the difficulties, at least to some degree, that we do. And we might experience them really acutely, and we might experience them to an overwhelming degree. But they might be impacting it like almost everyone. It's just that we get them more. A good example of this is open plan offices, right? I cannot work in an open plan office. They're terrible for me on so many levels. But we know from research they affect productivity across the board. So it's really a question of how can we listen to the voices of the people that are most impacted and involve them in resolving those issues that are going to make things better for everyone. Because this isn't really, when we talk about this, it's not just about making things better for us, though it is about making things better for us. But in doing that, we make things better for everyone. But I think it's really important to remember that the people who are very often best placed to solve a problem are the people that experience it most acutely. So involving everyone in how we're addressing these issues, making sure that we have a voice, and making sure that we're represented, that people are represented at all levels of an organization, then that's the most important thing for me.
So I 100% agree with everything that's been said so far. I could talk for a long time about individual adjustments that companies could make. It's kind of what I do. I'd say it's a special interest of mine, but I'd really like to reiterate the point that was made earlier of organisations really need to break down that one-size-fits-all thinking. There's a saying of you meet an autistic person, you've met an autistic person. You've met someone with ADHD, you've met one person with ADHD. You can't apply blanket policies. You can't make assumptions. You can't make assumptions. So organizations need to be creating a culture where not only neurodivergent people, but also anyone who doesn't identify as neurodivergent can feel comfortable to ask questions, to feel uncomfortable, to move out of that space and to be able to go, okay, maybe I don't know the best way to support my colleagues. Maybe I don't know the best way to support my team. How can I get more information? Rather than just expecting everyone to know what's going to happen, creating a culture where people can go, okay, I don't know, maybe I haven't handled this particularly well. What can I do? What can I learn? What can I do differently to make it better? Because without that culture of both psychological safety to take yourself out of your comfort zone, but also without that environment of seeking knowledge, the organisations are never going to grow. And again, it can't just be neurodivergent people having these conversations. It's got to be people that don't identify as neurodivergent as well.
For my disability, there's 9 million children in the UK who has it, and they will grow up to end up working in companies. If their companies hasn't changed by the time a 2-year-old with the DLD has grown up to 18, we would be still in that same point as we are now. And we need to get the senior management of all of their companies realize that neurodivergence is here to stay. And it's just so sad that I know people in speech therapy who are also spreading awareness of DLD, and they are saying it's an uphill struggle trying to get companies to realize that we are here and they should accommodate us. And that's the same with Asperger's, autism, and or everything else you can think of in the neurodivergent one. We don't have everything to say which is at the company's wish, but we've got a whole load of it, which we know what we struggle through, and we know how to put it right, and we just need them to listen. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Don't know if this will happen, but
Totally agree with everything that all of you have said. And Jess, you said some really good points earlier on, and so have you, Maddy and Damo, and Jonathan and Matthew as well. So I'm just trying to think what to say now. I think, yeah, because I'll add a bit more into that. But I think that attitudes have certainly got to get better anyway, because at the end of the day, if organisations can see the value that neurodivergent professionals bring, and creating a culture which is accessible, which is welcoming, it benefits everybody. We had a CEO of one company I used to work with, used to travel from the States. When he arrived, he had a quick 5-minute chat with everybody, and he was very welcoming, very encouraging. They were very welcoming, very encouraging. I had the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, on my desk as well. He had a look at it. He said, that's actually one of my favourite books. So we had a quick chat about that for a few minutes as well. But he was just so understanding and down to earth. And when we used to sort of show them how certain things work, or new products which are being developed and tested, they were just really excited, and it was just like a welcoming culture. The company did well because people from all walks of life and people from different communities were understood and accepted, and could be themselves at work as well. And it had a culture where people could reasonable adjustments where people could work from home if they had children and needed to look after them. If people needed help with specific tasks as well, the help was there. The help was there, and the understanding was there as well. And the environment was nurturing and understanding, which made it a great place to work. So making sure that to have that, but not just a piece of paper which says we're inclusive, we're DEI, we're accessible, yada yada yada. Actually living and breathing out these values. This is one reason why I like doing the stuff with the BCS, with the South Yorkshire BCS group and the software testing specialist groups. You've got the committees of everybody who's brings different strengths to a role. I must admit, Maddy, I don't feel I'm as good as a lot of people on the committee as well, because I don't have as much experience, but that said as well, I'll bring my own perspective into that. And with the South Yorkshire BCS branch, we've got a really good committee and a really good network as well. We're all learning and growing from one another, and I think it's fantastic making sure that we have these sort of values, living and breathing them, and putting them into practice. So we've got some questions as well from here as well. So we've got one question here. Listening to your experiences, what are some practices, if any, during recruitment at any organisation that made you would feel more at ease and comfortable? And what are some basic necessities for inclusion that might be overlooked in today's workplace or even during the recruitment process? So, if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to open it up to the floor, if that's okay.
I'll put my hand in the mangle then.
Awesome.
So we've heard about challenges, and
yeah.
I think we can all, there was lots of furious knowing about the challenges. When it came to what can be better, it switched from the personal, these are our challenges, to this is an organisational problem. This is something that needs to be driven from the top. And I think if we sit with risk of sitting in the room furiously agreeing with one another, yeah, these are the challenges, right, someone else needs to change.
Yeah.
And if it's just within this room furiously agreeing with each other, what can we do in this collection of either formally diagnosed, peer-reviewed, am I a weird horse or a normal zebra, call it what you will, what can we do in order to affect any change? Because if we sit there and just look at organisations and expect them to change, you can look as much as you like.
Yeah. So I'll take this one because unfortunately it's going to have to be my last one.
No problem.
Now, for this one, what I like to say is that organisational change is slow, but change that you can make yourself, you can make adjustments for yourself and for your team without having to rely on organisational changes. So some of those adjustments include, recognising what times you work best at and communicating that with your manager. Identifying, sort of looking at, do you need to move at certain times of day? What do you need to succeed? Not that I like to add more mental load as a neurodivergent person, because we're already carrying a lot of it, but you can advocate for yourself. You can make some adjustments for yourself regardless of the organisation. And then when it comes to your team, you can also start advocating for your team regardless of the organisational side of things. So you can ask people what their communication styles are, how they prefer to work, how they prefer to address conflicts, those sorts of things. There's a great resource that I like to recommend a lot, which is Manual of Me. And so what that is you basically, you write a guide to how you work. So you would answer questions like, what are the most productive times of day for you? How do you prefer to receive feedback? Those sorts of things. And even if you never share it with anyone, it's a good introspective for yourself. But then you can share it with yourself, with your team, they can share it back, and it just opens that communication of, the organisational change is slow, but there is no reason why you can't be advocating for yourself and for your teammates as well. So that's what I would recommend. I hope that helps. But sorry, just as a last note, thank you everyone. It's been great to see you all, but I'm going to have to, because I need to get the train. Yes. Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If anyone wants to reach out on LinkedIn, please feel free. I'm available. I do my best to answer in a quick time. Pretty bad with that, but yes, please do reach out to me, connect on LinkedIn as well. It'd be really great to hear from some of you.
Thank you.
Another thing to your questions, and I would say everything that Maddy said, but just put it in another way. Just speak up and go to your companies and say we need more neurodivergence, and just speak up. Spread awareness of that neurodivergence wrong, and just make sure it gets into any meetings you have with your peers and your management, and yeah, that's all as I think. Just speak up. What about you guys on the webcam?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think there's something really about advocating for our value, being comfortable saying that. It's really difficult if you grow up neurodivergent and you're always told, you know, you're too much, you're not doing it right, all of those things. So it's really, really hard to reclaim. But the more we can support that and advocate for that in ourselves and lift others up as well who are doing these things that are different and are kind of helpful and new and just come from our neurodivergence and our different way of seeing the world, the more we can kind of raise people's awareness of how valuable it is. Because I think that's one of the things that's often overlooked is we have so much to contribute. You know, these barriers that we're talking about, yes, we can address the barriers, but there's also really being able to make it clear to people what they will get when they do manage to genuinely include us in the ways that they're working.
Yeah, cool.
I was also going to add as well that I find that when I ask for reasonable adjustments, these companies, like, because I do courses outside of work and like all that kind of stuff, I ask for like extra time, or I ask for like, you know, very specific things. Like I'm like, oh, can you send me a picture of where I'm going to take this exam, just to make myself feel better, you know? And you can ask, you can always ask, and they might say no, but often they have never even considered that, and they're like, oh, sure, like we're happy to do that. So it's worth asking. It really is.
In my career, I've in recent years I've gone through like lots of different roles, which is a good thing. I'm getting opportunities to try different things, but every time that changes, I find I have to kind of learn again what I need to do in order to do that role. You know, Jess knows, you know, because that I've really had an issue catching trains. You know, that's been a real massive thing for me, and I've had to learn how to catch trains, and Jess has helped me with that because she's really good at catching trains. But she's like, oh yeah, this is how it all works.
It's because I can't drive, Jonathan.
No, I'm really good at driving. So.
Yeah, exactly. It works.
I'm good at driving. Everybody's good at something, but when I learn that new thing, I'm quite open. I'm quite vocal about it, and I tell people I've been really struggling with this, but now I've worked out how to do it, how it works for me. I have to, you know, public speaking and going to shows and stuff like that, and I do accept and recognize that I'm never going to stop this journey of learning what works for me in different environments. And the more I talk about it, about what works for me with other people, the more it helps other people as well. And also they come forward and then share their tips about what works for them as well. And it's a constant cycle of discovery. And you know, I suppose I'm lucky that I'm in that environment where it's okay to like have silly conversations and be open and sort of saying, do you know what, I got this train the other day and I didn't know how to get off it. But you know, sort of laugh at yourself sometimes, and but share with others, and being open, I think, is a really good way of helping each other.
So, yeah. Yep.
I have a question here. So ideally, in my opinion, so it is more of lack of awareness. So my question is, what is stopping organizations from raising awareness? And also, if managers in charge of people, allocating jobs to people, making people's lives good or bad or challenging and so on, so should it be considered part of their interview process, like being assist how to accommodate people with different needs? Maybe they need some more training. They need basically some awareness to do help. I'm also not talking about managers. Let's talk also about the education system. Also educators. Are we really considering such system in place? And if we not have such system, why not? Is it that expensive or hard to implement such system?
In all of the,
Good question. Yeah, after you. Yeah.
Sorry, in all of the interviews I've done, I've always mentioned that I've got a speech and language disability, and they always asked me what it was, and they all asked me if I needed any accommodations for it, and most of that time I said no, and I also just said I want you to be aware of it. So I'm not sure about the guys on the web, what they think, but my thoughts is if a company doesn't want to know about a neurodivergent, then they aren't a good company. That person shouldn't be working for them. So, and if they want to spread awareness of it and become like GCHQ, they I think you mentioned about them being neurodivergent and friendly, if like they are quite happy to have it, well, if they could say one thing then mean another, but as GCHQ is a disability leader, so they should be accepting of neurodivergence, but it's different. But I think just speak up if a company doesn't want to know it, they will tell you soon enough, and they will quite happily tell you by firing you. We'll do that. But yeah, I've been working as a lifeguard, a security officer, postal worker, and a delivery driver, and all of them I've mentioned it. Only one place I had toxicity, and that was in lifeguarding, but I didn't last long because I became ill. So, but yeah. I will leave it to these guys now.
Okay.
Set my pace.
So, who'd like to? So, would any of you like to say anything at all?
Matthew, were you going to say something? I saw you unmute
was, but
yourself.
you can go for it. Yeah, for me, I think I completely agree about the training and the development. And I mean, I would say that I deliver that kind of training to organizations, so I kind of have a vested interest. But I think the other thing, and that's really relevant for BCS and for other professional bodies, is understanding this stuff should be a part of professionalism. It should be a core part of our professional skills, and it should be a core part of the skills against which we're evaluated. So we're talking about, when we're doing courses, when we're doing, when we're doing accreditation, it should just be a part of this. And it doesn't have to be like all of the knowledge. I think, this is really important. We can't expect everyone to be a particular expert and understand all of the implications of every different condition. What we have to do is have people know when they've encountered something, how to learn, how to figure it out, how to work with it, and to really break down some of the kind of stereotypical ideas that people pick up from the wider culture that aren't appropriate and aren't helpful. So I think for me, it's really that it's embedding this stuff into how we're thinking about what we're doing as a profession and as professionals, whether we are, whether we're kind of frontline staff or whether we're managers.
Really awesome. I was just gonna add on to that. I mean, that's pretty much what I was gonna say, but well, better said. I was just gonna say, like, I feel like, we are making changes. Changes are slow. Like Maddy said, like organizational change is slow. And I feel like there's gonna be like the pinnacle of change will be when it becomes like, what am I looking for? Like there's a lot of companies I think that are still very traditional, very, entrenched in old processes, and the pinnacle of change will be when they are left behind and they actually have to catch up with us, these new thinkers, or, to stay relevant and to stay innovative, because there is a benefit to being diverse and there is a benefit to being, accommodating. So I think that's really the what we're like looking for in the future, is that they will catch up or just die out, honestly.
Well said, Jess.
Sorry, that's quite abrupt. But yeah, Jonathan, you wanted to say something.
we will rule the day eventually. Yeah. but I think it's really, really hard if you have an employer that just does not get it, and as an employee, it's very, very challenging. There's lots of good resources out there which you can try and signpost them to, and maybe because if they try and research these things on their own and they go to the wrong place, they're going to get the wrong advice. So if you're able to signpost them to some good materials, or maybe to speak to some, somebody like Matthew, who can, maybe advocate and point them in the right direction, maybe you can overcome it that way. But I think if you've got an employer that is, kind of their mind is wide shut, it's very, very challenging. But that's why it's really good to be part of these kinds of communities, isn't it, really, so that you can share those issues and look at ways to overcome it, and maybe even get those bring those employers along to get with the program or die, as Jess puts it.
Well said, all of you. Well said. I'm just gutted that you're not here as well, because I'd have high-fived you all for just what you said alone. So very, very well said, all of you, and to you, Damo, as well. For BCS, I believe they have a short course, don't they, about awareness for neurodiversity, I believe. The neurodiversity, I believe, as well. I think it's on, if you go to the if you look on the list of sort of like professional short courses as well, I think there's one on there. I'll need to look into that, but that's something I'm considering doing myself as well to help being more aware. And I think, like yourself, being aware of different things, different communities as well, not just the neurodiversity community, but for other different communities as well, and making yourself aware and learning about it is part of your professional development as well. So, yeah.
Just one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
Just at the end of that day, the main thing about companies versus neurodivergence is if the neurodivergence is nice, friendly, has a sense of humor, and it can do everything the company asks them to do, then they should be at the company. And up to the sense of humor and nice, friendly, and that will make the people like them. And if they can do the work, then they will stay longer. So that's the main thing, and that's is the best way of dealing with companies. Just have fun.
Cool. Before we close as well, does anybody have any questions or anything else they'd like to mention at all? Yes.
I'm just going to go back to the quote from the GCHQ. I thought that was extremely positive, and I don't think the benefits are recognised anywhere near as much as they should be. I don't think they were just saying that dyslexia is something they can cope and have. They were saying it's actually very useful in some circumstances. Yeah, so
yeah.
We can make more of the positive side.
Definitely. I mean, for example, a lot of friends I know who are neurodivergent have careers in cybersecurity, and the person who created the Pokemon game and franchise years ago, I believe that they are autistic.
Bill Gates.
Yeah.
He's just written his memoirs, saying, and it tells everyone that how he had to deal with childhood with autism, and you get people like Elon Musk, who says he's autistic and does that salute. So,
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
So, yes, my friend.
I've got a slightly different question.
Yeah, sure.
So, quite a few of you said that at some point in your life you had kind of like a breakdown or like you've been trying to kind of mask the word I hear a lot and hide the neurodivergence aspect of you. And then after that time, you kind of had a realization and things changed. But I'm interested to know, like, what actually changed? How did you approach the things, or how do you go about stuff differently after that experience? And did you find it was negative or positive? Like, did you find like people reacted in a more negative way or a more positive way, or did it make a difference?
I think so. Who'd like to take that question first, or?
Oh, Matthew, I saw you unmute yourself.
So did Jonathan. I'm happy to go first, but I'm also happy for someone else to go first.
Jonathan, did you want to go first this time?
Yeah, we can do, but now we've had that little tussle, I've completely forgotten the question. I think it was about what was the thing that got better after the crash. I think basically So yeah, I had to hit complete rock bottom and almost start again and relearn who I really was. You know, I'd grown up thinking I was one thing and actually I was something else, and I had to learn that new person. It was almost like a new identity. And then I went through a lot of anger, and I was really angry at the world, and I could not, things didn't really get better until I kind of forgave myself, and then I got into the right environment. So I think it was all about environment, really. Finding the right environment was absolutely key.
Yeah, I think I've had a similar experience, really. I think that process of figuring out, actually, what do I want? What am I good at? What do I like? When it wasn't really something that I was allowed to explore at school or at work until that point, is a huge thing. And also really being able to work in my own way and work for myself has been a huge help. I'm not sure I could work for another organization at this point, but it's taken me a long time to figure out what those ways of working that actually supported me were. And sometimes that's failed. You know, sometimes it's turned out not to be such a good way of working and it hasn't supported me. So it is trial and error, and it kind of is an ongoing process. I'm definitely better than I was, but it's still really difficult from time to time. And I'm not sure it will ever not be sometimes. But yeah, for me, it's I definitely had that dip as well, and then that rebuilding process. It's a huge amount to integrate, to understand on a professional level, on a personal level, about everything. You know, when you suddenly get a diagnosis, I had my diagnoses, most of them when I was 40. And so there's a huge amount of life gone already, and assumptions that you've built upon for years and years to then understand and then turn them into something else. It means a lot of unpicking and rebuilding.
Yeah, honestly, it's crazy the patterns here, because I also had to rebuild myself. When I was 14, you know, I left school and I had to start again from zero. And I really had to just embrace who I was and find out who I was, rather than trying to make myself someone who I'm not. So, you know, seeing my strengths and appreciating them rather than trying to make them someone else's strengths, like trying to copy someone else. It was just not, I mean, that's what led to my breakdown, was just the effort, the sheer effort it took to try to pretend to be everyone else and not see that it was actually more beneficial to be myself.
Jamie?
I haven't had a burnout or anything like that. But in my younger days, I did mask. And if someone's asked me what's wrong with my speech, I just used my nationality. I'm half American. And they just accepted it. And this was even during the time of me spreading awareness of the DLD. I still masked outside the speech talks I did. And I think when I realised that I didn't need to mask is when I went to uni, and my ex-wife told me that no one will doubt me with having a disability in my friendship group, and I think that changed it, and I just then went falling of spreading awareness, doing as many talks I can about it, and just having fun with it. But yeah, it's not good to mask unless you're half American.
I mean, fortunately, I've not had burnout yet, but I have had mental health issues as well from time to time as well. And a lot of the time, I tried to sort of change who I was just to fit in or just to work within people's style of working, with business's style of working. But I'm just thinking now, no, I want to be who I want to be. I want to be somebody who is good at testing. I also want to be someone who's into martial arts. I also want to be a writer. I also want to be myself, really. I don't want to be what I'm not. And I'm at a point with a lot of people just making sure, knowing when times when I need to sort of take a break, or knowing when I need to recharge, or knowing where certain environments aren't right for me as well, and just trying and just advocating for myself, and just being me, not what people want me to be. I mean, I think all of you as well, I've really enjoyed listening to your stories tonight. Maddy's, I liked listening to Maddy's. Damo, your insights and your story has been interesting, and thank you for coming to Sheffield. Jess, I've really enjoyed listening to yours as well, and at some point, and I think you're a great person in cybersecurity and a great role model. The same with you, Jonathan, as well. And one day it'll be great to meet you both in person at some point as well. So that's definitely on the cards. Matthew as well, I've really enjoyed listening to you as well, and to your insights and to your knowledge experience as well, and as well as helping to organise this event as well. So if anybody's not already got any, does anybody have any further questions before I close the talk and do a pitch for the SIGIS conference? Good. First bit before I close, I'm going to do a pitch for the software testing specialist group conference. So at the moment, we have a call for papers, which is on the software testing website, BCS specialist interest group in software testing. So we're having a call for papers, and our theme is finding calming chaos. So if anybody would like to submit a talk idea, the talks are 30 minutes long, including questions as well. So and it can be anything, and it can be with anything you want to talk about. You don't have to be a tester. You don't have to be a BCS member. If you want to submit a talk, BCS specialist interest group in software testing, would love to hear from you as well. We have a conference on the 19th of June in both London and online as well. Myself and Maddy spoke at the one last year as well, and it was a great environment. I did a talk based on the Back to the Future films about future of testing, from my perspective anyway. But it's definitely worth getting involved with. So Jess, Jonathan, Matthew, Damo, everybody else, I can send you the links to the call of papers as well. So if everybody would like to submit a talk, do so. And finally, I would like to thank all you wonderful audience, both in person in Sheffield and online. I'd like to thank Damo. I'd like to thank Matthew. I'd like to thank Maddy. I'd like to thank Jonathan. And last but by no means least, I'd like to thank you, Jess. So, yeah, we're at the South Yorkshire BCS branch. So, myself, Shahzad, Famini and Martin, who are on tonight's event, we're part of the committee. So, and we usually have events on the third Thursday of each month as well, throughout the academic year as well. The events are free to attend, and more news about our future events will be coming soon. So, thank you very much. It's great to see you all, and have a good evening.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Bye. Have a
Thank
good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.